Welcome to day 227 of New Zealand's Biggest Gap Year, an epic challenge that my partner Laura and I decided to tackle a few years back. The challenge, 365 activities in 365 days all around New Zealand. Alright, so today we're going to be e-biking in Akaroa. So basically we're kind of biking cheating around the beautiful harbour. This morning we are waking up in the beautiful township of Akaroa once again, and we are joining the team from bicyclette, which means bicycle in French, for a bike tour around the beautiful Banks Peninsula.
You sure that your helmet is on just in case something really scary happens?
Yes, it's the law in New Zealand. If you bicycle on public roads, you have to wear a helmet. The safety vest though is just extra security. Not like the road around the Banks Peninsula are gonna be super busy, but you know what? Better be safe than sorry. And because the Banks Peninsula is known to be mostly uphill, downhill, we are using e-bikes today. Cars, our tour guide quickly show us how to use them, and then we are on our way.
We get a short while to practice on these really funky e-bikes before making our way to the waterfront of Little Akaroa. We're only like 2 minutes into our bike ride and already we want to take pictures of this beautiful landscape. Little Akaroa is just one example of the beautiful hidden bays and inlets of the Banks Peninsula, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of that today. But up ahead we can see a very steep road going up alongside the hills of Little Akaroa, but that's no issue for us considering we have these really awesome e-bikes. Our bikes have 3 different power assistance modes, from power assistance, more assistance, to turbo boost, which really helps us get up this huge hill to the top, where there's a beautiful Anglican church situated overlooking the bay.
The St. Luke's Church is the perfect example of the cohabitation of so many different cultures on the Banks Peninsula. The church from the outside looks like a normal church, but as soon as we get inside, we see heaps of stunning Maori carvings on every single wall and wooden piece in the entire church. The church was built in 1906 using stones from Mount Sumner, which is in the Canterbury region. This is basically around the place where we went to visit Edoras, if you guys remember. We are now back on the road of the beautiful Banks Peninsula. Our tour is a one-way tour, meaning that we are basically going to be riding all around the Banks Peninsula and finishing in a completely different spot of where we started. Then from there we're going to be picked up by the team, load up the bike on the car and make our way back to our accommodation tonight. This tour is an awesome way to make the most of a sunny day on the Banks Peninsula. The bikes are making the whole experience super easy, so we're never out of breath and always have plenty of time to chat with our guide and get the most of her knowledge. It's impressive how much she knows about the Banks Peninsula and how many fun facts she has for us.
From the top of these hills, we can see rolling green farmland and vibrant blue waters as far as the eye can see. But Kaz tells us that the Banks Peninsula didn't always look like this. About 98% of the Banks Peninsula was once covered in native forest. After human settlement on the peninsula, much of the forest was cleared, but a lot of farmers in the area are grouping together to bring back some of this native forest, which is really awesome. Kaz also tells us about the volcanic history of the Banks Peninsula as well. Unlike a lot of the South Island, which is mainly made up of mountains and tectonic activity, the Banks Peninsula is the most prominent volcanic feature in the South Island. That probably explains all the hills, but the awesome thing about hills is that at some point you've got to go down them, and that's what we love about biking.
One of the main things that I'm taking away from this tour is how big the Banks Peninsula is. Because we're going so many uphill and downhill, we get a ton of viewpoints on all the little inlets of the beautiful Banks Peninsula, which is not only the town of Akaroa. Most people that do visit the Banks Peninsula stick with only Akaroa, and it's such a shame because there is so many hidden gems around the area. And for us, the best thing is the fact that, well, there are roads everywhere, so we can go everywhere, but there are almost no cars. So we basically have the entire road to ourselves, which is perfect for us biking in a line, chatting, joking together, competing with each other on the first one going on top of the hill, and making the most of those super fast e-bikes. The final point of our tour today is going to be the beautiful Hawke's Bay. It's one of the most famous bay in the whole Banks Peninsula. It's because it's a volcanic beach, meaning that it's black sand and it's super iconic for amazing pictures opportunities. You get the beautiful white water washing on the dark sand with both sides of the inlet being covered with cliff and native bush. How awesome is that? Just the thought of that is getting us to power through the whole ride. Actually, we don't really need to power through because the bike is doing all the work for us, so it's basically just a glorious downhill from there. We are speeding our way through the beautiful place of Hawke's Bay.
Before we end our bike ride though, we can't resist going onto the beach itself and checking out the Hawke's Bay beach. We see loads of campers on the edge of the beach, meaning that it must be an awesome place to camp. There's also a huge Maori presence here as well, as there's a Maori carved museum, and we're going to be checking out more of Hawke's Bay in a couple of days' time when it hosts the Waitangi Day celebrations. But for now, we're wrapping up our bike tour and loading the bikes onto the trailer where the team from Bicyclette are dropping us back to our accommodation in Akaroa.
Can you hear me, Laura?
Yes, you're recording.
Can you hear the song of my people? Can you hear me, Laura? Can you hear the scream of my people?
Alright, I'm sorry about that. I know this extra little singing right here was absolutely unwarranted, and also there was no warning for it. So yeah, I'm sorry for anyone that had to endure this. Anyway, what we're going to do right now, we're going to look at the comments that you guys had the first time we published the video, and then we'll talk about our upcoming live session. Natalia said, nice voice, Rob. That's very patronizing. Thank you. That definitely was not a nice voice. And Nick is saying, wearing a helmet, I think you should tell this to my sister who almost crushed her head into a fence into concrete. Also a bad example for a mum. Please get gloves to protect your hands as well. Well, gloves are not mandatory, but helmets are mandatory when you are biking in New Zealand. For anyone that wants to do any biking in New Zealand, please be aware it is mandatory. It's the law in New Zealand. You do have to wear a helmet. That's a good thing you pointed out, Nick. Alright, so if you do have any questions about traveling in New Zealand, even about the nitty-gritty of what is mandatory when you are using a bike in New Zealand, you can join us during one of our live sessions. So we are running the NZ Travel Show every single Sunday at 8 AM New Zealand time, right here on YouTube. And it's free for anyone to join, and what we do, we basically just answer all your questions. So we're looking at the live chat and we're answering all your questions about traveling in New Zealand every single Sunday. So you may want to join that up. It's a lot of fun as well to hang out together. Another thing you can use if you are planning a trip to New Zealand, you can use nzpocketguide.com. It's New Zealand's largest travel guide. It's created by Laura and I, and it's 100% free. There's thousands and thousands of articles to help you plan the perfect trip to New Zealand. If you feel like supporting our job or work, all our hard work, you can hit the like button and the subscribe button, and you can even join us on Patreon, and you will score a lot of really awesome perks for the price of a cup of coffee a month. See you then. Bye bye.